Hello and welcome to the Book by Book, a podcast about the odd book or two we've read. I'm your host Scott, but I'm not alone. Tobie's here too. This episode we'll be talking about Batman: The Killing Joke by Alan Moore and Brian Bolland. It's going to be a fairly spoiler-heavy episode, but if that's okay with you, continue on and I'll see you on the other side. Stop picking up their dog turds in the snow in certain areas. So when it starts to melt, you get these little turds just poking out the snow in the slow melt, and then it slowly just reveals poo everywhere in certain areas. Yeah. Tobie, what have you got for us today?
I'm bringing, I don't know why, I'll hold it up anyway, just in case we go video as well. Batman: The Killing Joke by Alan Moore and Brian Bolland. Yes, so it's a graphic novel, obviously. How much do you know about the history and all of that about Batman and is it DC? Yeah, DC universe.
Yeah, not loads. Especially, is it Bob Kane? Is the DC on the DC side?
No idea who that is.
Okay, he's the guy who created Batman. I think. He's like the Stan Lee on the DC side.
Okay, right. But Stan Lee also did DC, didn't he?
No. Yeah, he's all Marvel.
Stan Lee is all Marvel. He didn't write anything for DC.
No, I don't think so. So obviously this is a well-researched episode.
Okay, Google. Did Stan Lee write for DC? Oh, thank you, Google.
Could you repeat that? I didn't hear any of that, but I heard.
Basically, he wrote a reimagining of their top superheroes, and by the sounds of it, a one-off comic for DC.
Oh, okay. Just a little crossover.
There's none of their characters are his. So there you go. For those that are not in the know, like me,
we're learning live.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, The Killing Joke. So you don't know an awful lot about Batman, because I don't read. All I know, my history with Batman is Jack Nicholson. Basically, the film versions of Batman. I know all of that, and I've also read what is it called, Nightfall, which is a trilogy of comics, or almost quite like chunky novels.
Oh, okay. I'm not aware of those. I've never heard of those ones.
When Bane broke Batman's back and all that sort of thing. So.
Oh, okay. That is a famous incident. The Christopher Nolan films, the sort of trivia that comes through those, is often inspirations he's drawn from the
comics.
Some of the best of the comic books.
Exactly.
As far as I know, the big, I don't know about the big, but the ones that are sort of talked about the most are The Killing Joke, Year One, which is Frank Miller, who did 300 and Sin City and such, and The Long Halloween. I think it was this year or end of last year, a friend lent me The Long Halloween in the sort of noir version, and I read that.
Was it good?
It was pretty good. It was, it's like there's a new killer, and we're trying to figure out who it is. And through this, we literally go through all of the villains, plus a few I've never heard of. They sort of come in and have their cameo. Is it you? Yeah. No, I did this, but it wasn't me.
Does the crime fit the villain, as it were?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Like, I guess by the end, there's a twist in who the killer is. I guess it depends on how much you're paying attention. Like when I read some reviews afterwards, it's like a lot of people thought it was really obvious.
Yeah. My understanding, this is where I get confused, was how was the Joker created? Is it just different versions of him in different ways?
Yeah,
he was part of this break-in on a chemical factory, and didn't he fall into a vat of
goo?
Yeah,
acne goo.
Yeah,
yeah. He was sort of just a criminal who kind of went insane and fell into chemicals, right? I guess we could talk about that after. I don't know if you want to cover the plot, because I guess a lot of that comes in this, right? With unreliable narrators.
The Killing Joke. What is a Killing Joke about? It's a study of insanity and how easy it is to push someone over the brink. And the whole purpose of this is that the Joker is trying to prove that all it takes is one bad day to make someone like him. So he's kind of unease with the fact that everybody hates him, but he's like, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's not the responsibility or blame for his actions, which is, I think, the underlying thread about the whole thing. Even though the angle they take is very much from the Joker's perspective. He spent a lot of time throughout this book in the company of the Joker.
Right. This is his book.
Yeah, very much so. Opens with Batman visiting Arkham Asylum to have a one-to-one with the Joker, try and settle some deeds and not end up killing each other. There's a whole monologue that is almost bookends the novel. And then he goes in there and the Joker's there at a table and he starts his thing and then realises the guy behind the table isn't the Joker and the Joker's escaped. So he leaves there and he goes back to the cave and has a brief conversation with Alfred about the inevitability of their relationship, how they're like a yin and yang. They can't survive without the other, but the whole thing that you find in the end of The Dark Knight and that sort of play. Or no, yeah, there's a Dark Knight second one. Yeah, that one. So it's got, plays on that dynamic. It then cuts to Gordon, Chief Gordon, and his daughter in the flat, and they're discussing some clippings in a notepad that Gordon's just making up. Again, I think about the Joker and the first time that he met him and stuff like that. And then there's a knock at the door. The Joker and his goons walk in, shoot his daughter, not fatally, but quite badly, and kidnap Gordon and take him to a fun fair, strap him to a ghost ride and taunt him endlessly with images of his daughter and a manic cackling from the Joker and, oversized images. Is just like a bombardment of the senses. Batman gets a nod as to where he is, and he goes there. But the whole time, while this is playing out in the current day, you have these flashbacks to what made the Joker. And I think this is what separates the story from previous iterations of the narrative, is because it's done in this way. This is probably more, for me, why it's heralded as one of the best. That's my understanding, is The Killing Joke is one of the best Batman stories, short stories, as in essence.
It's solely in that floats around the top 5 or 3, even after all these years.
And I think it's for this reason, rather than the actual story, because the story is not that new. It's been done.
Just didn't find it anything special.
No, not really. But the way that it's told is very clever. Yeah, through these flashbacks, we find out about the Joker and there's troubles that he's having, and he had a job and he was doing all right, but he quit it to follow his dreams to become a stand-up comedian, but nobody found him funny, and he has a wife who's pregnant, and he's trying to support them, and no money's coming in, so he decides to take on a job for some mobsters, basically, to let them in the back door of a place that he used to work at. He knows there's a safe route through, it's unguarded. And while this is all being set up, you've got the current time where Gordon's being tortured, Batman's turning up to save Gordon, and he also visits the daughter in the hospital for a bit. That's a nice bit section about that. But anyway. So
how is she doing?
Oh yes, so good point actually. So the bullet didn't kill her, but it did sever her spine, which means she'll never walk again. So it's pretty horrific.
Right. They just cripple her and abuse her.
Considering that's happened, she does react rather startlingly when she wakes up for the first time, or what feels like the first time. She's just like straight sits up out of bed and is screaming and grabbing Batman and all this sort of thing. I was like, whoa, you just fine.
Comic book reaction.
Oh, doing so well. So and then in the flashback, it goes back to a flashback again. Batman turns up at the same place that the Joker, or not who isn't the Joker, the guy that turns out to become the Joker, and the crews are breaking in, and unexpectedly, unbeknownst to them, they've changed the guard route pattern.
The security's all changed, right?
The guard says, "Oh, you stop, shoot!" And the two croons take a bullet and go down, and the other guy's still alive. The guy that's going to become the Joker. He starts running, but he's got there's another subplot. This thing that completely goes over my head. Hence why I've forgotten about it. But something to do with the Red Hood. I don't know who the Red Hood is. Whether they're a big bad within the universe, or whether it's that in this story, this is the first time we've ever heard of the Red Hood. But he's the Joker's asked to put on this mask with it's like a tin dome, basically, with slits in the eyes, for reasons I don't know.
It's been a really long time since I read it.
I think is it because he wants to set him up as the Red Hood. Yeah,
is it just like a lot of their crimes just randomly have a Red Hood to create a faux, like a fake mastermind?
Yeah, no, that's
but they're like there is no Red Hood, right? Like it's just
an idea, actually, isn't it? That's a very clever idea.
I think that's the case. I might be wrong, but that's.
No, I think you're right. But it's a very clever idea. Thinking about it, if you were to, if everybody got together and created a bad guy that didn't exist,
but there's no leader.
You wouldn't know what's true and what's not. Genius idea.
Straight out of a Batman comic.
So he's dressed up as a Red Hood. Batman's like, "I'll take it from here," and then chases him through the aisles of this chemical factory, and they get to like a ridge, and he just has. I think he basically either falls. I can't remember exactly. Falls, or he just says, "I've got nothing to live for," and jumps, and he ends up in the water in the sewage that flushes him out into the river, and that is the toxic milk equivalent called to in the films, in the Jack Nicholson films. That's the difference in this sort of telling of his origin story, I guess.
It sort of pales his skin and gives him the smile, right? Like that.
I definitely wouldn't say he holds any animosity after this incident towards Batman. So anyway, so Batman then arrives at the theme park.
In modern day.
In modern day times, saves Gordon and chases the Joker, I believe, through. It's almost like
like a fun house, right? Like it's like the whole thing's set at a fair, right?
And then sort of there's like traps with spikes.
He sort of kitted out the whole fair.
And then it ends obviously in the hall of mirrors, where he smashes through one of the mirrors and gets the Joker. And then again, it ends with them just in each other's arms. And like I said, that monologue from the beginning comes back, but the Joker delivers it this time almost word for word. Really good monologue, actually. If I can find it quickly, I don't know. Yeah, here we go. I've been thinking lately about you and me, about what's going to happen to us in the end. We're going to kill each other, aren't we? This is Batman to the Joker. Perhaps you'll kill me, perhaps I'll kill you, perhaps sooner, perhaps later. I just wanted to know that I'd made a genuine attempt to talk things over and avert this outcome just once. Yeah, so, and then the Joker kind of reiterates that, I'm going to kill you, you're going to kill me. The whole point of what the Joker is trying to say in this whole thing, by torturing Gordon the way he does, is that he can push someone to insanity. When Batman arrives at the fairground and saves Gordon, Gordon's still got all of his marbles and hasn't gone insane. So in essence, what the Joker tried to achieve didn't work. And then Batman goes there and tells him this. It doesn't really go anywhere, from what I can remember. By Batman not killing the Joker or pushing him over the edge for all the heinous crimes he's committed throughout the novel. He kills a couple of other people along the way, but they're like nobody's like the person who sells him the funfair and that sort of thing.
The Joker kills them.
Yeah, the Joker kills them. Yeah, so but by not killing the Joker in this point, after all these heinous crimes, he proves that sanity can rule over insanity in the greater battle between good and evil, basically. And that is what the Batman killing Joker is about. So like I said, I don't believe the narrative, the story, is any clever or more deep than any of the other ones that have been told about the same story. But I think the way that it's told is clever.
Because I read the comic book a few times because it's very short, right? It's I don't know, 200 pages, maybe less. And whoever does the Batman animated series did an R-rated film of this, and it's quite strange seeing it in the animated series style.
Yeah,
clearly for kids, and then this is, I don't know if it's R, but maybe PG-15 or something. I saw that, I guess, when it came out to cinema a few years ago. I guess what I remember clearly was that they were trying to draw parallels between the two.
Yeah.
Like that, like you were saying, that yin and that yang.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Because there's a good point, actually. There's a part in the book towards the end where he's like, something like Joker's saying to Batman, something must have happened to you to make you like this. You're not to me, blah, blah, blah. Which is true. Something did happen to him, something horrid, something torturous. He just chose that path and the Joker chose the other path.
Yeah, and I was saying, like, when Christopher Nolan often talks about drawing, I think he definitely took that. Arguably, they're both kind of a bit insane. One of them just has a bit more moral high ground and tries not to hurt people, or at least the innocent people, whereas one has let go of that, right? And if memory serves, there's a joke at the end. I don't remember what it is. Like, it ends with the Joker telling a joke.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but I do remember it parrying, like, the moral of it is they're both insane.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So he says something that has got no punchline whatsoever. It's not remotely funny. It says, ha 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 ha. Oh, here we go. My Joker impression. You know, it's funny, this situation. It reminds me of a joke. See, there were these two guys in a lunatic asylum. And one night they decided they didn't like living in an asylum anymore. And they decided they're going to escape. So, like, I can give up on the voice now. So, like, they get up onto the roof, and there,
just across this narrow gap, they see rooftops stretching across town, stretching to freedom. Now, the first guy, he jumps right across, no problem. But his friend, oh, no way. He's afraid of falling. So the first guy, he has an idea. He says, hey, I got this flashlight with me. I'll shine it across the gap between the buildings, and you can walk across the beam and join me. But the second guy says, what do you think I am, crazy? You just turn it off when I'm halfway across.
Yeah, that's it. I remember now.
That man starts laughing. Or it ends, it just pans down to puddles.
But does it not feel like a parallel of, like, well, I guess a metaphor? The Joker is insane and he knows it.
Yeah.
And he's the first person who jumps. And the second person is hesitating. But obviously, he's already insane, right? Like, do you see what I mean?
No, you confused me. Go again.
It's the first person that jumps says, walk along the beam.
Where?
Across in the joke, right? So, like, two people jump across. Yeah. And so...
Yes, that's a very good point. That's a cracking point, yes.
Like, it's a sort of parallel, right? Like, they're...
I even looked at it like that.
They're,
so the Joker is the one that went across first. Batman is the one that's like, I'm not quite sure if I'm crazy or not.
But
make a leap.
But then in the reveal is that, yes, he's totally insane.
That's really clever, though.
I will say, is this one where we don't get a reiteration of Bruce Wayne's death, parents' death?
Yes, there's no mention of it at all.
I guess in the comic books that might happen a lot. I know in the films you pretty much see his parents die every single movie. But
yeah, again, like you said, this is about the Joker.
Did you see the new Joker film, the Todd Phillips Joaquin Phoenix film?
I was going to mention that. There's a lot, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of what the Joker is on screen is taken from this.
I certainly think the one bad day concepts, I mean, it's stretched out to like a sort of bad year, as it were, but a set of events that are almost out of everyone's control, or almost out of his control, right? Like, actually within the Joker film...
Because of him.
Say again?
They're being done to him, not because of him.
Yeah, and there are actually, throughout that film, instances of failures that could have changed the course of things, but I guess that he was failed by the system. I know you talked about Batman's speech, but I remember one from the Joker. I don't have a paraphrase, but insanity is the back door, and you can always slip through it.
Yes.
Like it's that it's a survival method. When things are too bad and you think you have no choice, you do have a choice, and it's insanity, which is pretty dark. but super well used by him.
Yeah, like it. I very much enjoyed it, but it wasn't the. I wouldn't. I've imagined it to be up there in the top 5 of all Batman comics. In summary, I very much enjoyed reading it. I thought it was very good. It's got some really nice, like you pulled out some really good points that I've surfaced read and not gone too deep into.
You finished reading it this morning, right? Or
Yeah.
yeah. I do find tiresome in these films the idea that they can't kill him or they become him. Like I know the Nolan films do that.
That's nice.
A really frustrating way at the end, where Batman has to take the rap for killing Two-Face.
Yeah.
Even though they're in a dark warehouse, and it sort of feels like there's just loads of henchmen around, and I don't know why they can lie about that, but they can't just say, "No, Joker did it," or "A henchman did it," or a man in a shadow did it." Yeah. Anyone but Batman. You know what I mean? Like it's not like I don't know. They've really just come up with the only answer is for Batman to take the fall for killing Harvey Dent.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, that's
like
right.
I understand not wanting to tarnish Harvey Dent's name because of everything he stands for and the laws and stuff, but it just feels really crowbarred in how Batman has to become the criminal in this instance. Yeah. And I guess it's sort of that in the Killing Joke where it's like, am I right that the Joker kind of wants to die to prove his point? He's happy to be killed by Gordon.
Yeah, by Batman.
By Batman or Gordon? Because I thought the whole point was he wants Gordon to kill him because that's why he's driving Gordon insane, or no? Like, why does he go for Gordon, not Batman?
No, he drives Gordon insane. I don't remember if does he give him a gun?
Because I do remember the scene where sort of Batman unties Gordon and Gordon's like, we have to do this by the book. We have to do it right.
That definitely happens, yeah. No, as the Joker goes up to Gordon, it looks like Batman turns up at that very moment and they all run. Yeah, so Gordon's in the cage and then Batman leaps on him and gets injected with a poison.
Oh.
Like hallucinogenic, I think.
I guess they always move in such shadowy, they have so much power and shadowy operatives. Like everything always goes to Arkham Asylum. They can't just sort of like, yeah, we've got a private prison. Let's lock him up in my Batcave. You know, that everything done by the rules, I feel becomes a bit arduous in Batman at times.
What I'd like to see an anthology of all of his escapes. How he got out for this novel. How did he do that?
Oh, the Joker.
Yeah.
All the criminal episodes. Yeah. I guess another thing that for me, I guess doesn't tie in is that similar to the Joker movie and certainly in this, I guess you could just argue that 10, 20, 30 years have passed, but he's a young man in the flashbacks, right? He's not a career criminal in any way.
No.
He goes mad. And then the next time we see him in our day, he's like a criminal mastermind with power and money.
Yeah.
Where does he get the skills to do that?
Yeah.
Other than he's just saying he can just stab people. But do you know what I mean? Like where did his thinking come from in all of that?
He was a failure, fell into a vat of chemicals, turned white, came out, and was able to escape Arkham Asylum multiple times.
And it's strange that this one is always so highly viewed when the explanation of the villain is often what kills it. The humanization, not the humanization, I guess, but do you know what I mean? Like where it came from, you know, when we watch.
Yeah. The mystique disappears once you know the origins.
And this is kind of different because he's quite an unreliable narrator, right? Like I remember some dialogue where he's like, I choose to tell it like this today.
Yeah. I guess what you could argue, like going back to your point about where does the skills to become a master criminal come from? In some senses, like a game of chess, you can be the best at chess, but if you play someone who doesn't know the bare bones or basic understanding and does things that you'd never see coming or expect, because it just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
That unsettles you and puts you on the back foot and therefore gives them their upper hand in their carnage to win. and I guess that's what they apply to that kind of rule to being in the Joker or one of Batman's villains, is that they go about things in a way that's so unorthodox, nobody can prepare for it. Therefore, it's successful to a point at which the good guys can formulate a plan.
I also always have issues with films where someone is supposed to be so chaotic, like an anarchist.
He's definitely an anarchist. I wouldn't say he's chaotic, because he's quite structured in his approach to taking and driving someone insane. He knows exactly what he's doing. There's a methodicalness to it that belies his apparent insanity.
Do you think it goes far enough in that aspects?
No. Like I said, I feel like it's very surface level. It's just telling the bare bones of the story, but in a clever way. Origin story. It's not doing anything unheard of with the origin story. It's like it's still exactly the same story, just a few tweaks here and there, but it's just told in almost a POV from the Joker's perspective, because it's always been from the Batman's perspective. But you always understood, even from Batman's perspective, that for the most part, that the Joker wasn't a Joker until that incident happened. Before that, there was still a person that was savable.
What happens to his pregnant wife?
She gets for some random reason, he's in the middle of the conversation agreeing to doing this, and it's about save his wife and get the money and everything. But she electrocutes herself with a baby monitor and dies.
On purpose or by accident?
No, by accident.
Oh, okay. That rings a bell.
He's told that by the policeman while he's at the table with the two croons that he's going to do this bank job with or factory job with, discussing the plan. So he's really panicked, and then the cop is like, "I'm afraid to tell you, your wife's died. She electrocuted herself with a."
Oh, okay. Is it like wink? She accidentally died.
No.
She wasn't taken out by the criminals, or
no, it was an accident, complete accident.
Okay.
The final nail in the coffin, basically. And then he's like, I can't do this. This isn't right.
He sort of goes onto autopilot from then.
Well, no, he basically, he backs out. He doesn't want to do it anymore. But then the croons are like, no, you don't get to back out. That's not how this happens. And basically heavy arm him into it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Even there, when he's still trying to take the right turn, but his life is forcing him back in a direction.
Backed himself into a weird corner.
But it all does stem from his initial choice. It's not that he always had the choice at the beginning of the novel not to take the job, but he chose to take the job. Even though everything around him was like, you need to pay rent, otherwise you're going to be kicked out. You need to do this, otherwise you're going to lose this. Still, the question is crime the right thing to resort to?
Does he... I have a problem with media, like books, where someone has an artistic spirit and surrounding characters are trying to crush it. My prime example is always Walk the Line, the Johnny Cash movie.
I've not read or seen.
So he has a wife and 2 kids at the beginning, and he's in a band, and they make some money on the road, but they're not successful. They're certainly not signed.
Yeah.
And they really show his first wife to just be nagging, like, you got to give up this band nonsense. You got 2 kids to provide.
It's going nowhere.
But at this stage, she's arguably right.
Yeah.
Because, they sort of live in this like mild abject poverty. You know what I mean? They have to like, oh, we can't have heating again, and he's got young kids. And
that's a deep question you've just risen here, Scott.
They literally just show her to be the nagging wife. Yes, okay. Bloody, he proved they're right, becoming mega rich and famous. I don't know. The other I get them more like, look, I'm not saying give up the dream. I'm just saying be more rational with other responsibilities. And I guess why I bring this in is because the Joker, memory says, he's just like a sort of lame comedian, right? At a nightclub.
Yeah.
As his full-time job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not very good one.
It's not enough, really, is it?
No.
Like,
not when you had a good job in IT.
Yeah, it's not going to go strength to strength, that one.
But if you want to follow your dreams, is it wrong to stop someone?
But if you want to follow your dreams, is it wrong to stop someone or someone to stop you?
Say we're in a relationship,
Mm.
and I decide I don't want to do my job that pays well, and I want to pursue a job in raising koi carp,
Mm.
and that has always been my passion. Would you support me, knowing that there's a high likelihood it's going to fail, because you don't have the land, or the finances? Same sort of like, giving up and going for a stand-up comedian, but with a twist. I like the idea of raising koi carp.
Well,
Would you let me, Scott? Would you let me?
I do, but I don't know. I don't know what our financial situation is. I don't know if we're flush or if we're, eating beans every day.
You're bearing child, and
can you go half time?
No, I thought this is not up for discussion. I want to follow my dreams.
Right. Can you follow half your dream?
No.
Okay, you know what?
All in on this koi carp plan.
You can get a tank and one koi, and if that koi lives for 1 year, then we'll see.
But I'm still quitting my job, so we're not going to be making any money on one koi.
No. You've got to just look after one koi.
Oh, and keep my job.
Yeah.
Okay, I can take that.
And if that koi is dead before the end of the year,
there you go. There's never a reason to resort to crime, people. We've just proven it. There's always a way out.
Follow your dreams. Just have a plan to follow your dreams, and
that's
maybe.
A blinder, that is.
Would you read more Batman comics off the back of this one?
Well, I've only read 3 in my lifetime.
Like, does the character of Batman himself intrigue you?
No, he's not even in it, basically. No, I would very much. This wouldn't make me want to read any more Batman any more than the last 2 did.
Oh, okay. And I guess since this is so highly rated, maybe it's just not for you.
Mm-hmm. It's like I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I would give it a 6 out of 10.
I don't know enough. I guess I could have done some research. Like, there are a string of Batman comics that are follow-on from each other. I know there's a famous one called A Death in the Family, in which the Joker, spoiler alert, everyone, kills Robin. And there are ones before and there are ones after with him, before it happens and dealing with it, like in the next sort of companion. And I don't know.
Do you think, spoiler alert, Robin is going to give people time to pause it?
I'll edit in a space of 3 seconds. I'm not too worried because that book's been out about 20 years or something. I don't know. I always have a problem with Marvel and DC on like standalone and universe building and what ties in where.
That's a good topic for a podcast. Marvel versus DC universe building that we know nothing about.
Yeah, I've read maybe 3 of each of their books, and I don't know what they are.
I don't think I've read any Marvel comics.
Okay.
I don't think I've read a single Marvel comic.
You've read 1602, right?
Yes, read 1602.
But see, that's an example of something that's just standalone, right? It's like, imagine all the Marvel characters living in the year 1602.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really good. I really enjoyed that.
Tobie, so what's the artwork like in this Joker comic book?
For me, like I think I mentioned it before, in that I'm not too au fait, if that's the right word, with comics. I've only read a few, and I don't have any appreciation for the amount of time and effort and skill, I guess, that goes into the drawings of the cells. Very much so. I look at it and appreciate it, but I've never, apart from Sandman, because it was it's a deliberately oversized edition, so it's made to stand out. The art is meant to ping off the page, which it does in the smaller comics, but to not the same extent. Really taken much notice of the drawings. It's more that's just the way to tell the story, and I've never really studied it in any way. So I wouldn't say anything about this really stood out from what other comics I've seen.
It did the job. Like, do you find? I find when I don't particularly read a lot of comics, but I do read a few.
Yeah. More than me.
Mostly outside of a few writers who just interest me, I'll snap up. It's the artwork that drags me in. But when I speak to people who don't, there's this common, people who don't really buy into comics or give a crap. The common answer is often, I don't know, do you read it first or look at the picture? I don't know what to do.
Exactly, that's what I was about to ask you. Not do you read it first or look at the picture, but do you find yourself staring at the cells and appreciating the drawings and the depth in the drawings, or do you just see it as the same way you do a frame in a film, and it's
like you're just absorbing it sometimes without taking it in? I guess the answer is yes and no, and it really just depends. Sometimes when the action and the story is so engrossing, you kind of want to know what happens next, so you're sort of speed reading because you want to know the events turn out. Yeah, I don't remember the artwork of Killing Joke too well, so I don't think I'll comment on it here. I just thought it was something we should bring up at least once.
Yeah, it's very functional. I wouldn't say it was. It's a comic book, and comic books.
Like it's a superhero comic book as well, right?
That genre are very similar in style. That's not a generalisation of all comic book styles, because there's a vast array of comic book styles out there. But in this genre, the superhero genre, there's a distinct style and presentation to the way the majority of the comics are drawn, and that adheres to that style very. So it's distinctly Batman, I guess, as well.
I guess I don't think I've read the, like I said, the Long Halloween one, which I liked, but it was very graphical. I think it was a black and white version, so very stark. But I do remember a couple of panels from The Killing Joke being particularly gruesome. Like I can still remember them years later. I guess there's scenes where the Joker's gassed people and given them his sort of trademark smile death. And there's not a strange scene, but a scene where he is, you see him buying the fare, or he's speaking to an estate agent at a rundown fairground. And by the end of the conversation, that guy who's talking to, like the estate agent or what have you, is sort of slowly died and become frozen in the permanent grim on like this ridiculously small kid's ride or something. Yeah, I do remember, like, man, that is graphically like grim and horrific. Like that's a good panel.
No, it's a very distinct one, that's for sure. It did pick out the image of him just on the back of, I think, a pink elephant, I think it was.
I guess the ludicrousness.
But yeah, so that's my thoughts on the art style. Very functional.
Right, yeah. This is probably going to upset you. I don't know, like, especially listeners not quite doesn't know if we're going to do a lot of the Sandman comics coming up.
Yeah.
Over time. I'm not that much of a fan of Dave McKean.
Okay.
I
did the majority of the cover work rather than many of the stories.
Yeah, I think I really like the film he made with Neil Gaiman, The Mirror Mask, for such a lo-fi After Effect based.
What was it called?
The Mirror Mask.
Mirror Mask, yeah.
But yeah, like you say, I guess he just does the covers mostly. He sort of envelops a lot of photographs, sort of cut out collage with photographs, which I'm not too much of a fan of. But I guess we'll get to that in the upcoming weeks.
But yeah, as for Killing Joke, would I recommend people read it? If somebody gives it to you to read, to borrow, yeah, I wouldn't buy it. It's not worth buying. Sorry, whoever's selling this.
I mean, I'm sure the Amazon stats would disagree, but you know, this is just our opinion. Hey, we're going to wrap it up around there. I want to thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed. Join us again next episode, and until then, support your local bookstores and have a great day.